How do you go from being a quarterback at Stanford University to joining the SEAL teams to running a company that is looking to transform the construction industry? Well, that is the question we're going to ask amongst many others and get them answered with my guest, Garrett Moore. Garrett is the co-founder and CEO at Agoras. He brings a career of executive-level leadership and technology expertise to the construction industry. He has a degree in mechanical engineering from Stanford University and a master's in cybersecurity from Tel Aviv University. And we're going to dive into the world of prefab. We're going to touch on the infamous Katerra that tried to boil the ocean and how Garrett's company is not doing that, but they are approaching developers and home builders with a prefab offsite solution that can transform the way that they build homes in terms of the labor force, the quality, the price, the speed, and the impact on the neighborhood. These are all the promises that prefabrication gives to us. But I think what you'll see in our interview is how Garrett is taking on the challenges associated with those promises and the work that his company is doing to overcome those challenges. So as I always say, enjoy my interview with Garrett. I think you will very much. And if you have any feedback on this particular topic, feel free to give it to me. Contact me on my website, constructiongenius.com/contact, or you can always contact me on LinkedIn. I'm there quite regularly. Enjoy my conversation with Garrett. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Garrett, welcome to Construction Genius.
Eric, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure, and I've got to start by asking you, how did a quarterback at Stanford get to be a Navy SEAL and then somehow get into construction? It's kind of an interesting path you've been on.
Story of my life might be often wrong, never uncertain. I don't grow up in a military family. My dad was a teacher. My mom was a flight attendant, grew up in Arizona, loved sports, had a focus on academics kind of drilled into me, got a chance to collide those two at Stanford, played football. Outstanding experience. Played for 3 different coaches in 4 different years, last one being Jim Harbaugh. Really, really formative experience as a young man. Very, very quickly in the collegiate world, you realize that you are not as good as you think you are and feel like an imposter. Yeah. And you start to see the handwriting on the wall. You're like, I can't keep doing this. I love the sport, but just don't have the talent. And I think I wasn't ready to go sit behind a desk. And I thought, again, the naivety of a 20-year-old, now that I'm thinking about this, military is sports for adults. Let's do that. And so I started looking at the military, started looking at special operations. And then the more I came in contact with the Navy SEALs and the more I met them, I just became infatuated with the culture and the camaraderie and the brotherhood that they had. And so at that point, I ended up graduating early, left for BUD/S, became a SEAL, spent 12 years as a SEAL doing the usual deployments, a lot of time in the Middle East. Married my high school sweetheart along the way, had 3 kids. And by the 3rd kid, multiple deployments, you start to realize the wear and tear of the job. And I think having gone to Stanford, the entrepreneurial bug that bites you being in Silicon Valley just went dormant. It never left me. And I think it wasn't until multiple kids starting to feel the wear and tear of that, but at the same time also buying and then therefore building my first house. It was kind of an accidental development project in San Diego that I ran headlong into the buzzsaw that is construction. And so I had a background in mechanical engineering. And again, the hubris of a young man, I thought, how hard can construction be? I'll just do it myself. I'll be the general contractor and I'll just be the project manager. And so I got hit in the face with the hard reality. And what was interesting about my experience is I went volumetric. And so I built offsite modularly. Concurrently, my best friend and next door neighbor was building his house stick built. And as these processes are unfolding, we're watching 2 different worldviews on construction go up next to each other. We realized that we were really dissatisfied with both. And so we thought to ourselves, hey, this is an opportunity worth getting out of the SEAL teams over. This is a problem that can be solved. So at that point, having lived through 2.5, 3 years of construction, trying to be in the Middle East and call contractors to track them down for your spouse back in the States, it was a personal pain point for us. And so as we started to unpack the industry, we became more and more passionate about bringing technology into construction and taking a new look at an old take, which is prefab. I do not pretend to be the first person to think of prefab. It's been around way longer than I've been alive. And so you go back to Sears catalog homes and it's not new. And yet it continues to be the siren song that builders and developers say, fool me 14 times, shame on me. I've heard this song before. So sorry, that's kind of my long-winded answer to a short question, which is how did you get from that to a passion about construction and construction technology?
So it's interesting. I want to go back to the beginning a little bit because as you described your athletic career, you understood that you hit the ceiling, and that's a real hard ceiling in sports that can't be overcome no matter how much drive and determination you have if you don't have the essential athletic ability, right?
Yeah.
That imposter syndrome that we often have when we begin something new. As you went through the SEAL teams and as you started your business, how has that helped you to get through the ups and the downs of starting a business?
I think one of the most fundamental lessons that Buds, I don't want to say teaches you, it pounds into you, is you can do far more than you think you can.
Right.
And after you've gone through 3, 4, 5, 6 nights without sleep, it resets your baseline for how you view yourself. And even if I think in my heart, I feel like I can't do X, I feel like I can't deal with another day with a sick kid or whatever it is, whatever the life problem is, that feeling is trumped by a realization and a thought in your head going, yeah, I've got a lot more suck that I can tap into, and I've got a lot more reserves that are there. And I think what it also does is it also teaches you the value of grit, that your talent, your athleticism, all those other things really come second to just raw desire. And one of the things that's so impactful when you go through Buds is the most handsome, tallest, buffest, most impressive collegiate athlete or Olympic swimmers, whatever it are, oftentimes are some of the first ones to get weeded out. And it's the small, scrappy, scrawny kid from wherever that grew up, milking cows and building fences. And his dad is the tougher than nails. And so it's a realization that grit and that drive is one of the greatest currencies in whatever you do, raising kids, starting a business, dealing with personal health issues, family issues, whatever it is. That grit is such a useful resource for almost anything after Buds.
Let me ask you that because, again, just comparing it to the athletic analogy, right? You can have tremendous grit and drive, but still not be good enough, right? In athletics. Is that correct?
I think it depends. And I guess as now that I've gotten older, I would probably have changed my stance on that. I probably wrote off my career because I said, I don't have the 40 time. I don't have the strength, the body frame, the whatever to play quarterback in the NFL. But now looking back on it, I kind of look at my younger self and go, who are you to quit on yourself so early? Like Tom Brady was a freaking, whatever it was, 6th round draft pick and scrawny. So in the age old nature versus nurture debate,
right?
I'm bending the analogy here a little bit. I have become far more in the nurture camp as I've gotten older and I've spent more time going through the military process. I care far less about nature. So I actually, if I could go back to my previous self, I would have said, yeah, I don't care how fast you are. If you want it bad enough, don't quit.
So that's so interesting to think about because when we're going through this process of evaluating ourselves or even evaluating others, and we come to these crossroads where we have to make a decision, do I continue on the path or do I choose a different path? And it sounds like your contention is that with sufficient grit, there is far more that you can achieve than you even think.
100%. I am my greatest worst enemy. I am the one that puts limits on what I can do. And this is not a rah, we're all great. It's largely that there's just a lot more into each of us. We have a lot more depth. And I think a great example is taking away SEALs or Buds or whatever. Look at the grit of a single mom.
Right.
That woman never thought that she would have the gumption to work 3 jobs to put food on the table for her kids, but somehow life forces her into a circumstance where she goes far deeper than she ever thought she possibly could. And then in that realization, she becomes tough, not because she ever sought out to become tough, but just it happened out of necessity. I love my kids. I will do whatever it takes to make this happen. Therefore, I'm going to dig deep because that's all I have.
Okay. Was there ever a point in Buds where you wanted to quit?
This is a contentious issue because a lot of SEALs will tell you everybody thought about quitting at one time. That was not my experience. I thought I was going to drop dead on multiple occasions and not be able to make it, and that they were going to drag me out. But I never had the, oh man, wouldn't it be nice to quit? It was just, I don't know if my body can go any further and I might just fall over, and I hope they don't let me die out here.
Interesting. So you were able to sort of do that separation between mind and body and kind of observe yourself, but it wasn't to the point where you're like, nah, I can't take it anymore.
No, it was very much, it's kind of like I showed the analogy I sometimes use is like, I know in advance that I want to see this movie. The question is only, are you willing to pay the price of admission or not? And so I just kind of made up my mind. I'm willing to pay this price. It's going to hurt. And if I can kind of put that in a little box and go, yeah, okay, it's going to hurt. But a lifetime of pride and valor is absolutely worth this next week without sleep and cold and discomfort and whatever. So I think maybe perhaps my wiring was a little bit easier to rationalize the pain versus the logic.
Okay. And do you think your athletic background helped you with that?
I do, because I think one of the things about sports that was really transformative and helped me in the SEALs is I always found in sports that when it sucks, focusing on your teammates makes you forget and care less about how much pain you're experiencing.
Interesting.
Because BUD/S is such a team environment, you have the opportunity to be focusing on everybody else because they're in pain too. And in so doing, by focusing on meeting the needs of others and serving them and really being a good teammate or a good swim buddy, you just don't have as much bandwidth to think about yourself and your own pain.
Okay. It's interesting. Let's pivot back here then. So you decided to build your house and you had your buddy next door and you went with the offsite approach and he went with the stick-built approach. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that offsite approach. How did you go about that?
I kind of thought, as 2016 at the time, I thought we as society had cracked this nut. So I just started calling around to a bunch of modular builders and said, hey, can anybody build me a custom home? Went through 7 general contractors first. That should have been my first warning sign. Eventually found one and said, yeah, I'll take on this crazy project. And we end up having 4 giant modules built in Idaho, shipped on the truck and craned in with this massive crane and set on the foundation. So that's the house I live in till today. And I love it. And I'll come back to this a little bit later on, but it looks like 4 cubes stacked on top of each other like Lego blocks.
Right.
And so this gets into the fundamental reason why I believe prefabrication has not hit mainstream is because there's something in the American psyche that says, I want to live in a building that looks like a home. If I could magically snap my fingers and convince everybody in the US to live in a 20 by 20 cube, well, IKEA would have knocked out prefab a long time ago. And I think that I believe, I'm kind of spiraling away from the original question, but I think this is my core thesis on why prefabrication has never made the inroads into the American market that it has elsewhere. And it's largely because we want to live in something that looks like a home. And the prefabrication technologies that have existed to date said either one of 2 things. You need to live in these cubes. You can have these cubes rearranged in whatever way you want, but these little bricks are essentially what we can build. Or you end up having to go with the design of the builder rather than you getting to choose your design. And so when I say custom, I don't actually mean, I have to caveat this. When people think of custom homes, it can carry different connotations. To me, a custom home is just an architectural style that matches you, or you have choice on the paint or the flooring, the cabinets, countertops, whatever it is. Nobody asks for 2x5 studs or 13 gauge Romex or circular studs. So the building blocks of a home are not custom. The orientation of those creates a custom design. And so in that, a custom design, I believe, is why prefabrication has not penetrated the mainstream market, is because customization and prefabrication have never really gone in the same sentence before.
Okay, let's talk about that. Customization and prefabrication never in the same sentence before.
So in kind of post-industrial revolution, manufacturing has largely been centered around the idea that you get economies of scale by putting an assembly line and just repeating the same thing over and over. So it's my iPhone, it's my table, it's my pen, whatever it is. Make the same thing. If iPhones had 5-inch screens, 5.1-inch screens, 5.2, 5.3, and all of a sudden you had 1,000 different permutations of an iPhone's geometry, it would make manufacturing them very, very difficult. Well, in construction, due to variances in style preferences around the country, variances in building codes, variances in a whole bunch of other things, it's very difficult to standardize because most people want their house to reflect their yard, their lot layout, their whatever. And so in a manufacturing environment, you need to be able to translate that customization into mass market. So what we've done in our core technology and our trade secrets and our patents are all centered around this idea that we've built a software that takes the custom and breaks it down into standard. And in so doing, it keeps a digital single source of truth all the way through the process out to our assembly line so that you can build that custom structure as a series of 2D panels. And so the cheesy analogy I use is if you sent our software a picture of the Death Star, it would tell you exactly how many black Lego bricks and gray Lego bricks you need to create so that you can send it out on the backside. You manufacture those on assembly line. And then all of a sudden, now you have an instruction guide that says, put them back together and you've got your custom structure.
What is the impact on cost then of a custom home when you take something that is custom and you standardize it and then you have to manufacture it?
So the largest savings from a customer centers around time. And while most It depends on the market. So a developer or a larger builder, the value of that time carries with it a tremendous amount of cost savings. For the custom one-off, $10 million home builder, time is not as important. And so they may want these incredibly unique high-end custom structures. And to be fully transparent, where we reach the limitations of light timber. And so there are structures we cannot build because you cannot build that design without heavy steel. And so when we talk about probably the $5 million and up home, oftentimes the architect is going to have a floor plan design or a cantilevered approach or some architectural components that may break them outside of our mold. That said, when we say custom, what we essentially mean is customer, you choose the design, not me. And so that gives them the latitude to say, okay, for my geography, my niche or whatever, I want the home to look like this. And then they execute it. And so where we really pass on tremendous cost savings to customers is the fact that your home is getting stood up in hours. And so that's less traffic, that's less dumpsters, that's less labor, that's less carrying costs on your capital. It's all the ancillary benefits as well. Our cost competitiveness in a given market varies, but our core thesis and design is to be at or below market everywhere we build.
Okay, so what is your sweet spot in terms of the type of home that you guys want to build?
Our sweet spot is anything from 300 square foot backyard ADUs all the way up to 3 and 4 story apartment buildings that can be done out of light timber. Where we start to get outside of scope is when you go increasingly vertical and you start needing steel and concrete woven into the structure to get up into vertical construction. It also starts to get into homes that are so complex architecturally that they cannot be built from light timber and therefore become problematic because then you're splicing timber and steel at the job site. So our core bread and butter right now are the backyard ADUs, single family and multifamily that's usually 3 stories and below in Southern California and Arizona, with the expansion into Texas and Florida hopefully coming in the next couple of years.
Okay. So then you're beginning with the ADUs, you're beginning with the smaller homes, but the vision is to move into the larger buildings and the larger homes in the future. Is that right?
Yes, because what's unique about this is the wall that goes into the 4th story of an apartment building is not any different really than the wall that goes into the single story ADU. Yes, you might go into a 2x8, you might change your stud spacing, but in general, the core product that we build on our assembly line can be used wherever. And so if you want to take that product because you're a developer of Section 8 housing, cool. If you want to take that product and you want to build a really high-end luxury home like we're doing up in Tahoe, cool. It doesn't make a difference to me where the geography is or how nice that zip code is. And I think that's one of the notions is people think of, oh, you're a custom home builder or you're an affordable housing builder. We're a technology platform and a high-tech manufacturer that builds a product that developers and builders can use wherever they want.
What sets you guys apart from other folks who are taking a run at the prefab offsite construction?
So I think in general, there's 3 kinds of prefab type folks. So some folks that say, hey, we're going to be completely vertically integrated. So an example of this might be like a Devel is a modular home builder, or Katera is a more famous example where they say, hey, look, we're going to do every... Infamous. Sore subject. A couple of our team are from Katera. And so there's a lot of good that they did.
No, I know.
They paved a huge way. My analogy is that they tried to boil the ocean and lost.
Yes.
And it was ambitious. And I'm so glad they did it. I think our approach in comparison to somebody like that is that we are very, very micro focused. So you've got folks that are saying, hey, we're fully vertically integrated. Then you've got folks that are taking a very unique materials play. So, hey, I'm going to 3D print a building. Okay, cool. That's a material science play. Not necessarily, it is prefab to a certain extent, but they're saying, hey, we're going to try and push building departments to accept extruded lightstone material as a new building material. Our approach is, I think, very, very laser focused, saying we're going to build with the exact same materials that everybody already builds with. It's your Simpson hangers and your timber, and we have not invented any new materials. But what we've invented is a technology core that allows those materials to be spit into a very high-tech, very high-speed factory so that the production speed can be increased. And for a lot of the volume developers, the core problem that this tackles for them is the increasing lack of supply in the labor market. And so as we look at, and I'm kind of like panning out to like a larger national view of single family homes, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are telling us we're 5.5 million homes underwater cumulatively since the GFC.
Yeah.
The problem is concurrent to that, we have a declining labor force. So I think the Census Bureau right now is saying for every 5 folks that are retiring, there's only 2 backfilling. And most people in the construction industry kind of get this because they're like, yeah, I can't get good talent. And even if I can get talent, it's not qualified. It's just labor. And so while these 2 things are converging, society is now starting to see Econ 101, supply and demand. Supply is scarce, demand is high. home prices are going up and people are selling homes in hours for 25% above asking.
Yeah.
And so our core theory is we do not have the labor to fix this problem. And as a scale of scope, in order to fix this, you would need the top 100 largest builders in the country to double their capacity for a decade to get out from the deficit that we're under. And so we believe that the only way to fix this is to build a technology that can take the labor force that we have and supercharge it, or else we're going to continue to see rising home prices regardless of what mortgage rates and the Fed do.
Right. So let's talk about that. Katerra tried to boil the ocean, and we're thankful that they tried so that we could see what to do and what not to do, right? It's funny because I have a podcast interview with a guy who used to work at Katerra, and it was very interesting. What you guys are doing, you say, is more focused and more pinpoint, and you're using materials that already exist, but your technology is what enables those materials to be transformed into something that is custom, but to do so in a way that's relatively efficient. Am I hearing that right?
Absolutely. So what we've done on the software and hardware side is we've built the world's first engine, so to speak, that can power this new process. And so what the engine does is it allows us in a very minimal footprint. So our current factory footprint for our assembly line is about 15,000 square feet. So relatively modest. We can build the entire home as panels on a single assembly line in a matter of about 8 hours.
Right.
And so when you can do that, these nano factories essentially can be replicated, and you could put multiple assembly lines in parallel if you want, or you can surge out, and then you can push your manufacturing capacity out to the major metro areas where people are building. Because the problem is, if I decide I'm going to throw a dart at a map and put the world's largest factory in Omaha, shipping is expensive right now. Trying to ship to California, to Florida, to Texas, you're burning off all of the savings that you gained from your automation and your consolidation. And so we are building a solution that is, we kind of liken it to special operations, small, highly capable, decentralized units that you can push out, and you can have at scale 15 different factories all over the country that are able to service their own metro areas.
That's interesting. So then why would someone not want to purchase a home or a building from you?
So to be clear, I actually don't face consumers because that's not our core competency. So we sell a product through developers that are already building the product. So they have the customer pipeline. They've got all that. What we're saying is right now you're on a 7-month tether and your customers are riding the lumber volatility all over the place. Our vision as a business is that all of our customers are being permits to keys in 30 days consistently. Now, people just like immediately write me off as soon as I say that. I'd be like, hey, you're ridiculous. That's never going to happen. And I have two counter arguments. One is, we're landing rockets on barges in an open ocean. We can solve this problem. And the second one is it's actually been done before. So when I say Back to the Future, NVR's predecessor, so NVR's like top 5 national builder, their predecessor was a company called Ryan Homes. Ryan Homes was building a very similar business model to what we have right now. And they were consistently 14 days, permits to keys, up and down the Eastern Seaboard in the 70s. And so by vertically integrating and building as panels off-site, it is actually, I don't want to say easy because I don't want to trivialize it. It is absolutely going to happen and will become the norm where people don't laugh at me when I say 30 days to build a home.
Right. So then your customers are the developers, not the end users.
Exactly. Now, I have a lot of our product design team is trying to think about the user because that's the person that's experiencing the home. But our customer is the person that already has the capital, the land entitlement, and development prowess, the customer facing sales team. And so we are selling to them so that they can, because a lot of times the thing that constrains developers from growth is their cycle time. How fast can I build homes? How many more homes can I get? And so that's why they're our core customer.
So then you're competing with other general contractors then. And is that correct?
So this gets into kind of what slice of construction do we take? So when you look at a home, average home is, 35, 36 different subtrades.
Right.
Our core niche right now, as our product evolves, is getting the developer from slab to rough inspection as fast as possible. And so what we found is that the vast majority of labor cost and labor time overruns are in the rough trades. So that's your framing, your plumbing, electrical, mechanical, et cetera. And it also happens to be the things that are standardized, and it happens to be the items that customers don't care about. I've never met somebody that really knew nor even cared what was behind their sheetrock. They care about, and I say the homeowner, the customer, the user, they care about the stuff that they can see. So if I can get the builder to rough inspection, then from rough inspection to keys, it becomes a much faster cycle. But the complexity and the inspectability and all the stuff that matters, electrical fires, plumbing leaks, structural strength of the timber, that's all in the rough trades. And that's where we stay focused as a company.
That's very interesting. So, but wouldn't that then sort of conflict with your permit to keys in 30 days if you're getting to rough inspection and now you're depending on the Finnish carpenters and, the tile guys to get everything done? I mean, I know a few tile guys. I'm not sure that you can rely on that house after house.
No, so this gets into kind of like the difference between where we are and where we want to be.
Sure.
And so I guess our view as a business is if I can figure out how to distribute books really, really well across the country, I can layer in DVDs and I can layer in kids' clothes and then I can layer in groceries. And pretty soon I can now all of a sudden deliver this giant immersive experience that we now know as Amazon. But the core competency that I have to get right starts with the skeleton and the shell of the home. Yeah. And so that's kind of a difference between present reality versus future vision.
That's interesting. But it's interesting to me how you guys have identified a particular part of the process and not tried to eat the whole elephant, so to speak.
People might accuse me of lack of ambition on this. It's just so hard for us right now to hyperscale a company in just a few trades. I can't imagine how I could do it or pull it off if I was trying to bite off all 36 trades at once.
Yeah, that's interesting. So then, as far as the geographic expansion of your company is concerned, how do you know when it's time to build a new factory?
The time is now. We're building a rocket ship, and if I pour too much jet fuel into the engine, I won't get to outer space. I'll just explode mid-flight.
Right.
And I think what we're trying to be is this is an operational game for us. The technology works. The market demand works. Our issue is, can we scale up operations? And so what we are trying to set as our company's metronome is that we expand to one new metro every year. And in that metro, we expand production by a single line of production every quarter, and we're adding a new shift each month. And so for the person that's in, geography number 10, they're like, Garrett, I don't want to wait 10 years. I want this product now. But we have to be methodical about our scale, targeting the largest, most dense regions. And so, as you probably know, I think there's 5 or 6 major regions in the country that account for more than half of U.S. construction. It's California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, and then kind of Tennessee, Atlanta, Carolinas area. So Our core expansion is starting on the west, moving east. And so we're targeting 2022 in Arizona, 23 in Texas, 24 in Florida, starting to work up our eastern seaboard in 2025. So that's kind of how we're approaching this, is trying to be very disciplined and methodical about how we grow.
Why will your company fail?
It's a very good question. It's one my co-founder and I ask ourselves all the time. 2 things. One is I burn out my team because we try and move too fast. And we see this giant market and say, guys, I build 1 million homes. We're not there. And we just go so fast that we explode. That's one failure point. Another one is we succumb to the tyranny of yes. And by that, I mean, oh, you could do this other product, this other trade, this other component of vertical integration. You could do this other customer. And all of a sudden, you've lost your focus as a business. And then therefore, you fizzle out.
Yeah.
And then the third one I would say is if we in this tight labor market cannot hire and build a team that's passionate about what is considered kind of a low tech kind of old-fashioned industry, because when I look at our team right now, we're 55 employees deep. We're trying to double that in the next 6 months. I've got a unique combination from entry-level factory labor that's working the production lines all the way up to data engineers and scientists that I'm pulling from the SpaceXs and Googles and Facebooks of the world. And so we've got a very unique talent spectrum. And right now, it's really, really hard to scale and grow people, especially construction technologists that are passionate about bringing their problem solving and their technical expertise to an old-fashioned industry. And I say old-fashioned in quotes because it need not be that way, but kids don't grow up right now thinking they want to get into construction. They want to go work at TikTok.
Right. Okay, so those 3 things, the burnout, the tyranny of yes, and the ability to build a team that's passionate.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about the tyranny of yes, because I know a lot of construction companies who are listening to this, they fall into that. An opportunity comes up and they say yes to that. How do you fight against the tyranny of yes?
I'm not sure I do a very good job, honestly. It's something we're working on. One of the tools we've put into place is we're meticulous about our vision, mission, and culture. And so oftentimes we come back to who are we? What is the core problem we're trying to solve? Is this new yes opportunity necessary for us to get to our North Star and where we're going? If it is not necessary, then it has to wait, because there's no shortage of good options But one of our little slogans around the office is good is the enemy of great. And so we can be pursuing things that are genuinely very good. And if we do that, we will potentially sacrifice greatness, which in our vision is doing to construction what Tesla did to Detroit. It didn't eradicate the internal combustion engine. I'm not going to eradicate stick-built construction. There's a place for it and a need for it. All I want to do is get to the point where prefab becomes not this bad word, and that it's become the point where now every major builder is building, at least in some capacity, in a prefabricated way, or they're building offsite, or they're tapping into our technology. Because Tesla still only owns a couple percent of the market, but they've absolutely moved a complacent industry further in a high-tech direction to the betterment, hopefully, of everybody.
So just state for us really clearly again, what is that core problem that you guys are looking to solve?
We are trying to solve the fact that construction has lagged behind the rest of the industry by 100 years. And society, assuming sleeping out of the rain does not go out of style, society needs a more high-tech construction solution so that homes do not become unattainable for the vast majority of Americans.
Okay. So then the way that you're framing that is in terms of a economic solution to high home pricing. Am I hearing that correctly?
Essentially, yes. It's the more people that we can help build homes, it essentially over time depresses the market and makes home ownership feasible for more and more people. Uh-huh. And in order to do that, it's not charging less for homes because that's rent control. Like the only way that you can actually bring down home prices is to bring supply up. And the only way, in our opinion, to bring supply up as a nation is through a technological solution, because we just don't have the labor in any near future to stay up with demand.
How does the quality of what you produce compare to what the quality of someone can produce on site, just through the traditional process?
It's infinitely better. And my heart breaks because most people don't care because it's behind the wall. So our manufacturing tolerances are to less than a 16th of an inch. And it's built more like an automobile. And unfortunately, again, like I said, nobody cares what's behind the wall. So most people don't even know the fact that we build with #1 KD timber, which is a very, very straight, very true product. The cabinet folks appreciate it when they go to hang cabinets because they understand it and appreciate it. But one of the challenges we're facing, or that we're trying to tackle right now, is really trying to bring sustainability into the lexicon of builders and developers. Because of the tolerances and the way in which we build, we are trying to get to the point where within the next year or two, our homes are net zero ready. And so that they are built with a much stronger thermal envelope because we can actually build a better product. And then therefore, people can look at this and go, I need less energy, which means my monthly bills go down because I'm living in a home that is much tighter from an air control and much more thermally insulated.
So then that's a pitch that you guys have to communicate to the builders and the developers so that they see the value in it and communicate to other people.
Exactly. Because I think developers are starting to hear this conversation from their customers, but they do not have a product yet that says, okay, we're better, or this is actually going to translate to something meaningful. And I think more and more data is showing that as the younger generation comes of age, so later millennials, early Gen Z, the climate focus, sustainability is on everybody's tongues more and more. I would say that one of the things that most people don't realize is that the largest contributor to global carbon emissions is heating and cooling of buildings. It's like 40%. It's not trucks. It's not cars. Right. It's actually the structures that we build. Uh-huh. And so we're trying to get ahead of this and provide a solution that can drastically impact on an environmental level as well.
Okay. These are the points that I've made a note of as far as the logic of prefab is. One is it addresses to an extent the labor force issue.
Yes.
Secondly, the quality issue that you just discussed. Third, the price. And then fourth, the speed. Am I hearing those right?
Absolutely.
Have I missed anything?
There's some tangential other things that we talk about, which is impact on the neighborhood, just the transit and the presence. Yep. It's also the ability for people to have flexibility or immediacy. So we talked about the speed to compress the timeline, but when you can compress that timeline, people can get excited about owning that home, and they can really kind of make plans to move much more quickly. So at the end of the day, better, faster, cheaper, and greener are kind of the core stump speech that we give.
Right. So is it possible to use the technology as it exists right now to, let's say I'm a home builder or a developer and I've got a 50 house lot or something like that. Is it possible to use your technology to execute that?
Currently, no, because the factory setup is still too large to be field deployable. At a certain point down the road, we would love to get to the point where our technology can be outsourced or can be given to other folks that they can, and then it's so simple and so straightforward with a factory or a semi truck, they can almost stand up their own capability in that area. We're not there yet, but we're trying to get to the point where our technology becomes ubiquitous and other people are using it to build their homes.
Okay. Yeah. This is cool. This has been really interesting. How can folks get in touch with you guys?
The easiest way is they can connect with me on LinkedIn or go to our website and connect through there. At the end of the day, we are really passionate about this industry, and we're passionate about building a team that are construction innovators and construction technologists and want to leave their mark and make a dent into this space at a huge level. And we hope to be the conduit for that.
Excellent. So we got your website here, and I'll put your LinkedIn profile into the show notes as well. One thing I like to ask my guests, I didn't prep you for this, so you'll have to forgive me. By the way, where do you live in San Diego, roughly?
I live over in Coronado. I got stationed there when I joined the military and never wanted to leave because it's a beautiful little idyllic island.
That's cool. Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to live on Windansea Beach in La Jolla.
Oh, nice.
I know. My mom had this, actually, it's a funny story. My mom had a boyfriend. He was in the CIA, I think. And so we moved to America from Europe, and we ended up in this little apartment building overlooking Windansea, like on the second floor. So it was awesome.
Oh, gorgeous area.
If I'm in San Diego, what's the one restaurant I need to hit?
That is tricky. I'm going to go very low tech and say one of my favorite places is a dirty little taco shop in Imperial Beach called Don Poncho's. They make some of the most delicious carne asada or surf and turf burritos. It's a little off the beaten track and it's a little out of the way, but I absolutely love them.
Excellent. We will find Don Poncho's in Imperial Beach.
Yep. Right at the base of the Strand, there's Highway 75. Right when that tees into Imperial Beach, there's a little taco shop right there. And there's almost always a line around the block.
I see it right here. I'm going to put that. That does look like a beach taco shop as well.
Yep.
I'll put that in the show notes as well so people can hit that if they're ever down in that area. Garrett, I really appreciate your time. It'd be great to get you back on the show here maybe in another year or two and see the progress you guys have been making.
I'd love to be back on, Eric. It'd be a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for listening to my interview today with Garrett Moore. Before you jet off, make sure that if you are down in San Diego that you hit up Don Poncho's, or Poncho's rather. We don't want to call him Pancho, but it's Poncho. Come on. I'm going to put a link in the website to that Mexican joint. You got to hit it up. It sounds like it's really good. And check out his website. Feel free to contact Garrett on LinkedIn. Once again, if you've enjoyed this interview, if you value Construction Genius, please share it with other people. And you can always contact me on my website if you have any questions. You go to constructiongenius.com/contact if you have any questions or feedback from me. Like I said, give us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you have a terrific week. And thanks, as always, for listening to Construction Genius.